Hello, and welcome to another brand new day and another brand new episode of Books with Not Just Breathe. Now, over the weeks that I have been posting these videos, many of you have been talking to me and sharing how you've fallen out of the habit of reading books. Many of you guys were actually avid readers till about a few years back. Now you've fallen out of the habit of reading books. And personally, I have seen so many people and myself as well. I mean, for example, I have been a very passionate and avid reader throughout my life, but there have been phases in my life where I've just stopped reading. For example, I think 2 or 3 years back, I was barely reading 2 or 3 books in a complete year. And I can completely understand when people say that, you know what, I no longer read books, or that is not my area of interest anymore. And then I completely relate with people who say that, I've completely fallen out of reading, of the habit of reading books, and that I used to read a lot, but now I just don't get the time because I have been there myself. And over the last couple of years, I have been able to get myself out of that vicious cycle. And I thought maybe I could do a video today talking about a few things that I changed in my life, which re-inculcated the habit of reading books and brought me, back on track. Now, making these changes into my daily life, last year I was able to read 12 books in an entire year, which is 1 book per month. And this year I've signed up to read 25 books in a year. I have finished 20 books out of that already, and we're in August, so I'm pretty confident I would be able to reach my goal of 25 books, which is pretty decent given it's just above 2 books per month. Just to share my background for those of you who don't know me personally, I don't have 12 hours to read books every day. I am a normal office goer, tend to work about 8 or 10 hours every day, Monday to Friday. And over and above that, I love traveling. So every other weekend, I'm out on the road in a new place traveling. I also have a travel blog, which I update on a regular basis. So I write those blogs. So I need some time for that. Plus, right now that I'm doing these videos, I need a lot of time to shoot these videos and edit them and post them every week. And on top of all of that, I have the normal housework, like cleaning, cooking, and all of that. So as you can see, I have a very average life in terms of the amount of time I would have to read books. And that's why I thought that if I'm able to share some of the tips that I use to read more and more, maybe it could help you as well get back into that habit of reading books. And before I begin, a very pertinent question is, why do I even have to read books? In today's era where information is just a click away, I don't have to spend so much time reading books. Well, that is absolutely true that at one point in time, maybe 50 years back, books were probably the most important source of knowledge. So no matter where your interest lies, you would still have, or you would still want to read a book to know more, to widen your perspective. But now books are no longer needed for that. But there is still one very, very important thing that reading books helps one develop, and that is it's almost the cognitive capacity of the brain. Plus, it really helps in focus and concentration. I mean, I have seen this in myself, that when I was in a rut and not really reading as much versus now that I've got a daily habit of reading, my concentration and my ability to focus on something has tremendously increased. That's a huge bonus that you get out of reading books versus just getting the information, from the click of a button. And with that, I want to start talking about the tips that I have used in my life to read more and more. Tip number 1, create a routine to read. And what I mean by that is set aside a certain time in your daily routine where you will only read. For me, it is 1 hour before bedtime or about 30 minutes around lunchtime if I'm having my lunch on my own. Everybody's day is different, but I'm pretty sure you would be able to take out an hour or 2 hours every day to read, especially on the weekdays, to devote to reading. Tip number 2, read whatever you like. There is no specific genre that one has to read. Every book has a reader, and every reader has his or her own book. So feel free to read whatever you like. I mean, it can be fantasy, it can be historical fiction, it can be biographies, it can be children's books. It can be just anything under the sun as long as you're reading it. Just because there are other 10 people who are reading a certain type of book doesn't mean that that's the kind of book that you need to read now. I'm reiterating this, but just read what you like reading at that point in time, and that is absolutely fine. There is no right or wrong book. Tip number 3. If you're restarting your habit of reading, maybe start with shorter books that you can actually finish. When you're achieving a goal, it gives a positive signal to your brain that you've done something good and that you will be able to do it more. And that adds that element of you being enjoying that act of reading. So I would suggest that don't immediately, I mean, if you're restarting your habit of reading, do not pick a book which is 400 pages long. Maybe pick up a book which is 100, 200 pages long so that you're able to finish it. And I'm pretty sure that is going to give a positive reinforcement to the brain saying that, wow, I wanted to do something, I've been able to do. So the next time you pick a book, you'll be more confident that you will be able to finish it, and you would also love that experience. Tip number 4, set a reading goal for yourself. And even better if you're able to do it on a social media platform. I know it's almost cringeworthy to talk about another social media platform because we spend so much of our time on social media these days. But I have experienced some of these apps, such as Goodreads. Again, it need not be on any of these apps. You can have your own way of tracking. But I have found that if I put in a reading challenge, for example, Goodreads has a reading challenge where you can set your own goal, and then you can see the goals of other people, etc. It sort of pushes me to achieving that goal. And the moment I'm closer to that goal, I really feel very happy about it. And that's again like a positive reinforcement saying that, wow, I've achieved my goal, so I should put in some more effort to read some more today because, well, I might be able to surpass my goal. So I would highly recommend that you set a goal for yourself, whether it's a social media app, whether it is on Goodreads, whether it is just on an Excel sheet that you're sharing with friends, whether it is just a message that you've shared with your close friends and family that this is the number of books you want to read, and then you're able to track it, whatever works for you. But I think setting a goal and then tracking against that goal will really help you push yourself towards achieving that goal. And who doesn't feel happy on achieving a goal, right? Tip number 5. And this one, I can't believe that I'm talking about this particular tip, but few years back, I was vehemently against this. And this is maybe get yourself an e-reader. I remember myself from 3 years back where I used to say that who reads on an e-reader? Books are to be read in a hard copy. And I absolutely stand by that till date. I still go ahead and buy lots of hard copies because that is still the best experience of reading a book. But when it comes to ease of reading, e-readers really help a lot. I have read a lot of books on my Kindle. Again, Kindle is not the only e-reader. There are tons of other e-readers out there. You can pick whatever works for you. But the best thing about e-readers is, firstly, it is very easy to transport and take along with you. So for example, if I'm going out I'm traveling out, I will have a train ride, or I have just some free time when I'm traveling out in a park or maybe somewhere else, I can quickly take out my e-reader and start from where I had left off last. That becomes a little difficult to do with hard copy books most often because many of the books are not as travel friendly as an e-reader because of its size and weight. The second cool thing about having an e-reader is, especially when I'm reading at night, I don't have to bother about switching off the light once I have finished reading because I just don't switch on the lights. The lights in the e-reader are enough and they are not a burden on my eyes. I'm able to read a book, and then the moment I feel sleepy or I think that I've read enough, I can just close it and shut my eyes and sleep. And the third reason why I really recommend e-readers is because e-books are less expensive than hard copy books, and sometimes you may not be able to get a particular hard copy book in where you stay, but you will always find an ebook. So the availability of the book that you want to read is much more easier on a ebook rather than a physical copy. So for these three reasons, I have found an ebook to be really helpful in getting me back into that habit of reading, and I've read a lot of books on my e-reader. Of course, I don't tend to read a lot of long books on the e-reader, but shorter books, well, I really recommend getting. Tip number 6. Now, this can be a little controversial. Again, this wasn't something that I used to do till about a couple of years back, but I found it quite handy, and I've seen other voracious readers do it, and that is read more than one book at a time. Yes, you've heard that right. Don't just read one book at a time. Have at least 2 to 3 books, going on at the same time. At the first thought, you might think, wow, that's crazy. I mean, I can't even finish one book. How can I read 3 books at a time? That is the fun of it. If you have 3 books of, let's say, 3 different genres, we are not always in the same mood every day. So maybe I'm just reading a fantasy book right now, and today I'm not in the right mood to read fantasy. Maybe I had a horrible day at work and I just don't want to read fantasy. I want to read something that is much more, realistic and closer to life. Whatever, I'm just making it up. If then I already have a book that is matching my mood, I'm more likely to pick that book and read it. In the other scenario where I'm only reading a fantasy book, let's say, I would probably not read that day. It is always better that I have a book at hand that fits my mood, that I'm willing to read and that I'm reading, versus having one book that I'm reading but that I'm in no mood to read that day, and hence I do not read. So it is a suggestion. It at times does work. Try to read 2 or 3 books at a time. At least that will help you read something every day, and eventually you will finish 3 books. So well, that's a win anyway. Tip number 7. Again, quite controversial one, but this is about audiobooks. Now, this is very similar to ebooks, wherein I am not a huge fan of audiobooks, but I have had some glorious relationships with some audiobooks. I tend to choose very, very specific books for my audiobooks and use them only during very specific times, and that has helped me read more books than I would have otherwise read. I use the audiobooks to listen to books when I'm not doing anything in particular. For example, I typically use it, well, now I'm no longer using it because I work from home. I'm no longer going to work, but when I was still going to work 5 days a week, I used to listen to the audiobook on my commute to work. And when I say on my commute to work, I wasn't driving. I was either on a bus or I was walking. If you are driving to work, I would say don't listen to an audiobook, because you are just not focusing on the book. You're also focusing on driving, and that is not doing justice to the book. If you are not doing anything, for example, if you're commuting on a bus to work, on a train, in a cab, then probably instead of reading an ebook, because many people have motion sickness, you're probably better off listening to an audiobook. Similarly, when I'm traveling and let's say I have a overnight bus journey or an overnight train journey or even a flight, I tend to listen to audiobooks because I typically can't sleep when I'm traveling. So that's the best use of an audiobook, when I'm able to listen to it at a stretch and also able to complete a book. Now, I've tried audiobooks when I'm cooking, but as I said, if I am already doing an activity, I have found that I'm not able to concentrate on an audiobook. Read an audiobook on your commute to office where you're yourself not driving. When you're traveling, again, when you're not driving, maybe when you're exercising, that's again a great, instead of listening to music, you can actually listen to an audiobook. It's really great. I really enjoyed reading audiobooks then. Yeah, I think these are some of the some of the times where you can actually make good use of an audiobook. So, well, yes, these are my 7 tips on how to read more or how to get back into the habit of reading more. I hope that this will help you get back into reading more books. I would love to know your comments on what you thought about these tips. Do they work for you? Do you think it won't work for you? Have they worked for you? And as always, if you've liked the video, do like and share it. And if you want to see more videos from me, do subscribe to my channel because it will mean a lot to me. And with that, signing off for today. Wherever you are, stay safe and stay healthy. Bye for now.